Today, we are going to sit with high functioning anxiety, the kind that hides behind success but quietly take away your sense of ease. Hello, and welcome back to From the Therapy Room Psychology of Mind and Body. I'm Jyoti, your host. I'm a clinical counseling psychotherapist, and I'm really glad you're here. You're welcome to follow this space and stay connected. This is a space where we gently explore the inner landscape of human mind, where psychology meets lived experience, and where the stories we carry inside finally find language. In this podcast, we explore the psychology behind everyday emotional experiences, the things we often struggle to understand within ourselves but feel very deeply in our day to day life. And if you listen closely, there is often a constant voice running in the background. Did I do enough? Could I have done that better? What if this goes wrong? It doesn't shout, it whispers continuously, and over time, it becomes the soundtrack of your life. You meet them every day. They are doing very well, they are responsible, they are reliable, they are admired, and yet, somewhere between their achievement and their smiles, there is a quiet panic that never really leaves. If you're someone who keeps going, even when your mind is exhausted, even when your chest feels tight, and even when rest feels uncomfortable, then this isn't just an episode. This is a mirror. It's kind of invisible kind of contract. Somewhere along the way, you may have made an invisible contract with life. If I stay strong, if I'll be loved, if I don't fall apart, everything will stay okay. And so you learned not how to feel, but how to function. And the word rewarded you for it. But no one asked, what is this costing you? Hold yourself together like this. Today, we are going to talk about high functioning anxiety, that the kind that doesn't stop you but silently consumes you. High functioning anxiety is not always visible. It doesn't always look like panic attack. It doesn't always disrupt your life extremely. In fact, it often makes you more productive. You meet deadlines, you show up, you over deliver, but internally you are constantly overthinking, anticipating worst case scenarios, seeking control, feeling like you are never enough. It's anxiety that has learned how to wear success as a disguise. And it almost like living a double life. There is a version of you the world sees, composed, capable, dependable. And then there is a private version of you who lies awake at night, replaying conversations, who feels a quiet dread before even small tasks, who cannot fully relax even in moments of rest. And both are real, but only one is visible. And this anxiety doesn't just stay in your thoughts, it's it lives in your body. The tightness in your chest before a simple task, the shallow breathing you don't even notice anymore, the inability to fully relax, even when nothing is wrong. Your body is not confused, it is carrying a state it learned long ago that something might go wrong even when everything is okay. This doesn't live in your mind, it follows you everywhere. At work, You'll recheck emails multiple times before sending, not because you don't know your work, but because the idea of making a mistake feels unbearable. And at home, you keep yourself busy because slowing down brings a strange discomfort you cannot explain. And with your friends, you listen, you support, you show up, but rarely let yourself be fully seen. And in your closest relationship, you may love deeply, but still carry a quiet fear. What if I'm not enough even here? Let's go deeper. From a psychodynamic perspective, high functioning anxiety is not random, it has roots. Often in childhood, maybe love felt conditional, maybe approval had to be earned, maybe mistakes were not safe. So the psyche adapts. You develop an internal voice that says, if I perform well, I'll be accepted. If I stay in control, I will be safe. If I don't fail, I won't be rejected. And over time, this becomes your identity. But underneath that identity, there's a child still wanting to feel unconditionally okay. I remember a client once. She was everything anyone would admire: successful career, responsible, emotionally composed. When she sat in therapy room, she said something very quietly. I don't know how to stop even when I'm tired. As we explored her story, something became clear. Growing up, she was a good child, the one who didn't create problems, the one who made things easier for everyone, and slowly she learned her worth was not in being, but in being good enough for others. Her anxiety wasn't random, it was a lifelong adaptation to keep love from slipping away. And underneath all of this, there is often a very simple, very human fear. If I stop being this person, will I still be loved? And that question is rarely conscious, but it shapes everything. Over time, this creates a very specific emotional pattern. You become highly attuned to others, but disconnected from yourself. You can sense shift in people's moods instantly, but struggle to name what you're feeling. Because your energy was never trained to go inward, it was trained to scan the outside world for safety. In Jungian psychology, we talk about the shadow, the part of ourselves we suppresses to be accepted. For someone with high functioning anxiety, the shadow often contains rest, vulnerability, imperfection, emotional messiness, and you become the strong one, the capable one, the put together one. But what happens to the part of you that are tired? They don't disappear, they go underground. It becomes the language through which the shadow tries to be heard. Your restlessness is not weakness, it's the rejected part of you are asking to come home. In Jungian terms, this is the difference between the persona and the self. The person who have learned to be capable, composed, and dependable, but the self is wider, messier, more human, and anxiety often begins when the gap between these two becomes too large to hold. What if the part of you that wants to do nothing is not laziness? What if it is a forgotten self that never got permission to exist? is the shadow is not just darkness, it is also the disowned softness within you, the part that wants to pause, the parts that doesn't want to perform, the part that want to exist without being evaluated. When that part is supposed is suppressed for too long, it doesn't disappear, it turns into anxiety. There is also a quiet fear here, not just fear of failure, but of being fully seen. Because if people saw your confusion, your exhaustion, your uncertainty, would they still experience you the same way? So you keep showing them the polished version, and slowly you begin to disappear from your own life. On paper, you might be achieving, growing, becoming, but here is the paradox. If your foundation, your sense of safety, belonging, and self worth is unstable, then even self actualization feels like pressure. You're not growing because you feel fulfilled, you're growing because you feel you have to. And that's where anxiety lives, not in failure, but in the fear that even success won't be enough. You can achieve everything on the outside and you still feel unsafe on the inside because safety is not built through success, it is built through emotional experience of being accepted without performing. Love can start to feel conditional, not because others are withholding it, but because internally you have learned to associate love with performance. So even when someone genuinely cares for you, a part of you wonders, would they still choose me if I stopped being this version of myself? So high functioning anxiety is often praised. People say you're so strong, you handle everything so well, but they don't see the mental exhaustion, the inability to switch off, the guilt when resting, the constant internal pressure. You may look like stable on the outside, but inside you feel like you're always on. And the most painful part, you don't know, you don't even know who you are without this pressure. Because slowing down feels like losing control. And sometimes the deepest cost is not exhaustion, it's loneliness. Because when you are always the one who is okay, people stop checking if you actually are and you stop showing them. In relationship, this can look like overgiving. You adjust easily, you accommodate quickly, you take responsibility even for things that aren't yours. And on the surface, it looks like love, but underneath there is a quiet fear of losing connection. So you don't just love, you manage the relationship to keep it safe. And with friends, you may be the strong one, the one everyone goes to, the one who gives advice. But when it comes to your own struggle, you pause because you don't want to be too much, or worse, you don't know how not to be the one who has it together. And at work, your anxiety often looks like excellence. You go to the extra mile, you anticipate problems before they happen, but internally, there's a constant pressure not just to do well, but to not fail. because failure doesn't feel like a mistake, it feels like exposure. Another client once told me, if I slow down, I feel like something bad will happen. Not logically, but in her body. There was a constant urgency as if stillness itself was dangerous. And when we traced it back, she grew up in an unpredictable environment where being alert, being prepared, being ahead was how she stayed emotionally safe. Today she calls it anxiety, but once it was survival. High functioning anxiety often goes unnoticed, not because it is rare, but because it is rewarded. The word doesn't question productivity, it celebrates it. So when anxiety makes you more efficient, more responsible, more driven, it doesn't look like a problem. It looks like success. And that's why so many people suffer silently in ways that are invisible even to themselves. What are the everyday signs you might have it? I mean, related to high functioning anxiety. This might be if you feel anxious even when things are going well. You struggle to relax without guilt. You over prepare for everything. You play conversations in your head. You fear disappointing others deeply. You tie your worth to productivity, and yet no one would guess. You achieve something, and for a moment there is a relief, but it doesn't last because very quickly your mind moves the finish line, and now there is something else to prove. So it's a kind of achievement loop. It can also look like smiling while being feeling overwhelmed, saying I'm fine when you're not, needing constant reassurance internally but never asking for it, feeling like you're always almost failing even when you're not. I mean, these are some of the subtle emotional patterns, kind of thing, what I have just said. You don't feel allowed to fall apart because everyone depend on the version of you that holds it all together. But there are some micro moments also. Notice the small moments when someone says, we need to talk, and your mind spirals. When you rest but cannot fully relax. I mean, when silence feels uncomfortable, so you fill it with doing. These are not random habits, they are your nervous system trying to stay ahead of something it once learned to fear. And when we talk about healing high functioning anxiety, it's a different kind of strength because healing high functioning anxiety is not about being less capable, it's about becoming more honest. It's begin with redefining worth, something like you're not valuable because of what you do, you are valuable because you exist. Another thing, allowing perfection. It's okay. You don't have to earn rest. You don't have to justify slowing down. That's fine. Allow these things. Listening to your body. Your anxiety is not enemy, it is a signal. So just listen to your body. Ask yourself, what did I need that I never received? And gently begin to offer that to yourself. meeting your inner child. Healing doesn't happen in big breakthroughs, it happens in very small moments. When you pause and don't immediately fill the silence. When you say, I'm tired, instead of pushing through. Let something be imperfect and notice that nothing falls apart. This is how your system learns slowly that you are safe even without constant effort. Healing is not about removing anxiety completely, it's about shifting your relationship with control. Something like that from control to trust, from I must control everything to feel okay to I can be okay even when things are uncertain. And that shift is not cognitive, it is emotional, it is slow, it is practiced in small, quiet moments. One of the hardest parts of healing is learning to receive, receiving rest without earning it, receiving love without proving yourself, receiving support without feeling like a burden. Because for a long time, you were the one who gave. And now, letting yourself receive can feel unfamiliar, even unsafe. Maybe your anxiety isn't trying to sabotage you. Maybe it's trying to protect a version of you that once felt unsafe being anything other than perfect. And maybe healing is not about fixing yourself, but about finally feeling safe being human. Here's a gentle question I would like to put up. Maybe tonight, instead of asking yourself, what more do I need to do? Ask something different. What part of me is tired and has never been heard? And just listen to yourself. The truth is, high functioning anxiety doesn't always break your life, it can build it. A life that looks stable, successful, even admirable. But inside, it can feel like you are constantly holding your breath. And healing is not about losing everything you have built, it's about finally being able to live inside it. You don't need to fall apart to deserve rest. You don't have to keep proving your worth through pressure. You can succeed and still be at peace. Maybe the real question is not how do I get rid of this anxiety? Who am I if I'm not constantly trying to hold everything together? I can understand that question can feel unsettling, but it is also the beginning of something more honest. Thank you for spending this time with me today. This has been from the therapy room, psychology of mind and body. If this resonated with you, you can share what you felt or noticed. I would love to hear your reflections. And if you find these conversations meaningful, you can follow or subscribe to this podcast and feel free to share it with someone who might need to hear it. So these spaces of reflection can continue to be a part of your journey. Until next time, take care of your mind, your body, and the quiet spaces within you. See you next time. I'll be sitting next besides to you. Take care.